I call it a spirit of weaving. It's not going to be denied, it's going to come out.
So we wanted to tell the story about Schlen Out, which means weaving house. That name was given to us by the elders. That was to use for our weaving studio. When we first came home to teach, we already knew that Vancouver was putting in for the 2010 Olympics, and this was in 2003. I was worried about how we would represent ourselves to the world, because in 2010, the Olympics were hosted by the three nations that it's in the territory of three nations in so-called Vancouver now. So we knew we were going to host the Olympics as Indigenous people. And of course, we wanted to make sure that we represented ourselves in a good way that would make our ancestors proud. And not only that, but show how brilliant our ancestors were and made beautiful things, but also things that, kept us warm and also, put out really good energy and protected the wearer against bad energy. So, all the things we wanted to make sure that the world could experience that. And that was exciting. Also, we got a fantastic grant from Royal Bank Corporation, and it was $150,000 to create 10 weavings for monumental weavings for our cultural center that was being built for the Olympics in Whistler. So what we did was, actually we could have used that grant in any way we wanted to. Buddy and I could have taken the grant and used it ourselves, but we wanted to make sure that we included the community and created excitement about weaving and make our community or help our community understand that there's value in what we do. And I think that is a real big one for me. So we did a call out for weavers that we had already taught. We did a call out, but plus we had some people in mind already that were amazing weavers, students of ours. So that's how we started. I think it was a really exciting way to start. It created a lot of excitement in the community. And also, talking to people now about when we started teaching, people are saying things that we didn't know the community was thinking.
So we wanted to do what we could to revive the art form and just bring it back to life. And, talking about how stories change over time. And so we started to get more insight from Janice, his grandmother, and my mom and other elders on really what it's about, a worldview, about ways of being. Our people lived back, pre-contact days, when it came to gathering the wool, breeding a dog, processing wool, spinning and dyeing, and then weaving, and then putting stories into the designs. It was an industry. It took until I started weaving, I really never understood the concept. What my mom said, that it had monetary value. And so it does hit home, once you learn about the history of weaving. And so we've been teaching since in our community, and as the word goes, it used to be called Moccasin News, now it's Facebook. Other communities heard about us, and we started traveling. Rather than students coming to us from other First Nations, we went to them. Looms, wool, like the whole kit and caboodle, and started educating. It was a deliberate motive for both of us, was to bring weaving back in our community and other communities, but also to educate the general public, like Janice was saying about the Olympics. We ended up teaching at universities and museums, schools, about our history, about our culture, about our worldview, and about our spirituality that goes with weaving in particular. And, it kept evolving over time. We, as Janice mentioned, we've done work with the Vancouver Art Gallery. We still are working with the Vancouver Art Gallery. We have a new architect, and the intent is to, with two other weavers, design a facade of the building. We also have done murals in Vancouver, so public art. We're out there in that way. Of course, the exhibit down in Seattle, something we had talked about with our wool weavers down there. Is like, how do we get started? It really is like a vehicle for indigenization and decolonizing work. The steps we had to go through, and we've had to go through here in Vancouver. There's a lot of groundwork that goes into it, and it does go back to sharing, with people about our history, like how long we've been here. It's a story that keeps unfolding. I was just recently talking about it on the weekend with Liz Hammond Karema, is that I call it a spirit of weaving. It's not going to be denied, it's going to come out. Just like I could start with how we met Susan in 2003. Is it chance? I don't think so. But I think there's another aspect to it that I think being, both of us being steeped in the culture, somehow we were ready for that message. And so we got to meet Susan. Of course, Janice was looking for a teacher, and I was appreciating the weaving. My background is construction. I had my one book on weaving. And
there was only one book.
There was only one book, yeah, Gustafson's book. And so I could look at the pictures, and that was about it. And so when Janice wanted to buy a tunic in 2003 at the Nooksack, at the Weavers Gathering there, and Susan was like, well, I could sell it to you, or I could teach you for the same money. And so on that note, our lives did a 180. Of course, we said, yes, we'll travel to Skokomish and, get the full line on all the stitching and designs. And did that for several months. We also got practicums, how to become teachers. And it's just how we set out. And that's what we brought to other communities. And, our goal was to, even back then I was looking at the population of Salish territory, which is both Canada and US, as you know. Some 50,000 First Nations, Coast Salish, where, they belong to this. And we knew that we're not going to reach 50,000 people. So the communities we went into, we wanted to create more teachers. Looking for teachers, someone that would be interested in becoming a teacher. We surveyed them and, got to the number that we've taught. A few years ago, it was upwards of 3,000 that tried it.
That was 6 years ago, sorry.
Yeah, 6 years ago. And so it's what it's turned into. We've, then of course, Audrey Lynn. We met Audrey a couple of years ago now, and she does DNA studies. And, she was in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. by then, and she read this article about Salish people and that we bred a dog for wool. And she was telling me this. And her really particular interest is dogs and their DNA. And she asked, did anybody done molecular and DNA study of a dog? And they said, no. And literally the fleece was under her feet. And so she struck out with a fellow named Logan, and, with all the studies they did and testing, we're hearing now that's, 2, 3, 5, and probably beyond 6,000 years ago where people bred this dog. So there's, I think, another example of, what's kind of unfolding before our eyes and being part of it. And Liz, joining with Liz and all the weavers to produce a book just on the woolly dog.
So the exciting thing about that, and what I find so exciting, is that Mutton is the pelt that was saved in the 1800s. And he was sitting in the storage with nobody worrying about him for over 100 years. And to find out that he, the woolly dog, like mutton, has been bred for over 5,000 years minimum. I think I say 6,000. But and none of the DNA is from anywhere else. Every bit of mutton, every bit of that woolly dog was bred from North America. How brilliant the ancestors were to be able to breed a dog into existence, for his fleece. So I just find that so fascinating, and how brilliant they were. Even to figure out that, hey, I could use that mountain goat wool to make robes that would keep us warm, and then to mix in also the cedar bark with the warp, or the stinging nettle with the warp, or the fireweed fluff, or the feathers to help keep it a little bit water resistant. So there's all of these things that those ancestors did that were just so incredible. I just admire it so much, and I think about it all the time, and I feel like we have to keep that going for them, just to show how brilliant our people are. And not only that, what's really important to me is that our grandchildren know, and they teach their grandchildren, and they teach their grandchildren and their grandchildren, and carry pride in that knowledge and that creativity and the brilliance too. Basically, they were scientists. Scientists, architects, engineers, all of it. We had an amazing culture happening.
Yeah, so thinking about the book on the weekend, it's like, we talked about oral history. It's like oral history and science have come together. We always knew our people had dogs. There were doubters. And like this lady from Washington State knew of it. And she read about it, and she even had the tag number, the Smithsonian's number for mutton. And so she contacted them. They're like, well, yeah, we might have it, but we don't know the number, the tag number of the dog. So she got it, sent it to them, and certainly they found it. So I was mentioning that, the story really about the woolly dog, and, part of the weaving story starts several millennia ago, to where today we have the one specimen that's positive that, we did breed a dog. And, I've always said, we were way beyond hunter-gatherers. We had our longhouses, we had our societies, several societies, within our culture, our spirituality, beyond the shelf. And I'm talking like the late 1880s, 1890s. And so we were going to start adapting to the modern world in education and other, in business and other sorts of. So in our community, I could speak for that. We've done that. Now we're coming full circle. Jan's mentioned we have carvers, we have our longhouse, we have our spirit dancers, basket makers, wool weavers, language. And that's what my grandmother said, that we would come full circle and put it all back together one day. Our contribution is in the wool weaving part of it. Jan's cousins, worked with our elders about developing a dictionary. He got his doctorate. My niece has got her doctorate in ethnobotany. So then that was always our ancestors' goal, was that the youth would get the education for us to be able to compete in the modern world.
So working on all of that for 20-something years, people started understanding in the city about the importance of Squamish culture or Coast Salish culture. And that's hence, like Buddy was talking about, the murals, working with architects and on interior and exterior. It's been amazing, but not just that though. We're working with the city. We're working with places where we can put our face to the city, so they understand that this is our territory. That's really important to me. Not just for us, not just for Squamish, but for the future generations. We look at 7 generations from now and hope that they'll lay the foundation for them. So that's what we're doing, because it's been done for us. So it's our turn now. It's our turn. And through weaving, we can share the culture and share the importance of the culture and help people to connect to something here. When I do public speaking, I always say, go connect to the land. Go feel that connection to the land and understand that our ancestors' prayers stay on the land. They don't dissipate. They stay here. And I feel the same way about the weavings. When we put weavings out there and show weavings, we're sharing an energy. And that's what artists do. Artists share energy in a big way. When you walk into a building and huge piece of art at the entranceway, you'll feel something from that. And I feel like we don't talk about that enough. And people don't talk about what artists do enough. I got this really fantastic call from Emily Carr University of Art and Design, and they asked me if I would accept an honorary doctorate degree from there. And the president said, well, if there's anything that you want, we want to be there for you. You just let us know. We'll be there for you. And I said, well, we do need something. We need you to offer a Coast Salish weaving course and for credit. And she said, yeah, you're right. We can do that. There was no hesitation. So now we're teaching a class at Emily Carr, and I want them to accept that we're going to teach in a traditional way. I want to teach in an Indigenous traditional way. And so I would like you to fit your things around how we want to teach. And so they're in the process of doing that now. And I appreciate it. I feel like when we share those things and we teach in that way, people appreciate it. People appreciate learning in a more, I think, intimate way with the land. We can tell them our mountain goat hunters hunted at this mountain here that they can actually see from the school. I think it's a really generous thing to do. I know people will certainly appreciate it and appreciate having a connection to this place, even if they're not from here. Now you see conferences and they say, weaving people together, weaving this together, weaving that together. I'm like, wow, people didn't talk like that before. And now weaving is included in a lot of things. So it tells me, because we never saw that before, we started bringing it to the city and putting it in the universities and galleries and museums. And, now we're seeing the fruition of all of that. All of that work. People understand it. They understand what it is, that it means something. That I'm really proud of that.
Unweight, hot weight, yahoo!